expecting around 20-25 people, but people from the chapters, especially in New York City, we have 5 chapters in 5 boroughs, and we have a chapter in Jackson Heights. So that is why there will be 6 chapters. Most questions, if any, will be asked by this 6 chapter people, mostly president, secretary, executive director, or their political action director, if they have ever arrived. But the way we'll do, we know each other, as you already said, that from your beginning to the up until today, we know, you know me, I know you, and of course, Ahmed Shakir also, you know, you said no. But with that note, we are going to introduce ourselves now to you. We'll be giving our name and who we are in the ASAAL, and if we are involved in the union, that's good too. So with that note, my name is Mahfoudin. I am the national president of ASAAL, and I am involved with the union, District Council 37 treasurer, and 1407 president, last 21 years. So with that note, we go to our Karim Chaudhary, and then we continue.
Mohammed Karim Chaudhary, National Secretary ASAAL, New York State Public Employee Federation, co-chair for statewide Affirmative Action Advisory Committee, and council leader for District Division 349. Also, I am the PEP delegate to New York City Central Labor Council.
Monir Bhai, Monir Islam, Queens.
I am MD Monir Islam, Queens Chapter President. Also, I am UFT members.
Okay.
Bobby Koren, please. Bobby join করছে মনে হয়.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, Nurul Bhai.
Nurul Haq, Executive Vice President, ASAAL Queens Chapter. I'm an 1199er, member at Community Board 12, also a member at 103rd Precinct.
I'm muting everybody. I muted everybody. And Nurul Bhai, unmute, please. Nurul Bhai, unmute. Nurul Bhai, unmute. Yes, yes, finish it up, finish it up. I cannot believe this. Even
Okay,
if
okay. Nurul Bhai, finish করেন.
Ji. By
the way, my wife used this last, so that's her initials at Queens.
I just said it. Maybe you didn't hear it. Okay, once again, Nurul Haq, Executive Vice President, ASAAL Queens Chapter. I'm an 1199er and also a member at Community Board 12 Queens, also a member at 103rd Precinct Council. I have so many events with David Weprin. I hope he didn't forget me. Thank you.
No, not at all.
Ahmed Shakir. Unmute.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon and very welcome, David Weprin. We worked together for many, many years. We are going long, so many years back. And thank you for coming here. And I wish you good luck. This is Ahmed Shakir, ASAAL Treasurer from the founding member.
Yes. Reginald Rajakuruna.
I'm the Staten Island chapter secretary. I'm under local DC 37, local 1407, and I work as an economist in New York City Housing Authority.
Albert Baldio. Albert, unmute and introduce. Albert, unmute.
Sorry about that. Yes, I'm on. Yes, I'm Albert Baldio. I'm a life member of ASAAL, and I've always been trying to fight for immigrants here. As you know, we're the 2nd largest South Asians in Queens, and also the 5th largest group in New York City, and hence we're trying to get our fair share, especially since the New York City budget that will fall in the hands of the Comptroller is $92 billion, and hence we would need some of that to filter down to our community.
Yes. When you, no, it is just introduction, so you will get back to that.
I also want to say hello to
So,
Mr. Weprin. I ran against him the last assembly race, but of course, this is all in good faith. I've always admired him and I respect his experience. So, Mr. Weprin, there's no love lost between us. And best of luck, sir.
well, thank you. Well, Albert wants me to get elected controller so he can run for my assembly seat again.
Exactly. We can get that seat. That is right.
Very good. Okay, introduction, Harjit.
Hello, my name is Harjit Minhas. I'm the ASAAL Queens Chapter Secretary. I've been with ASAAL since Maf had introduced me when I became an executive board member of the local 1407. And, you know, ASAAL has done great work. And this is why I'm proud to be actually part of ASAAL.
Shana Begum. Introduce, unmute.
Hi everybody, my name is Shahana Begum. I am Women's Chair of ASAAL, National Women's Chair of ASAAL.
Yes, Sharbin Tahir. Unmute.
Hi, nice, rainy, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Sharmin Tahir, ASAAL member, Queens Chapter. Thank you.
Very good. And let me see who else is there. I don't know who's the Monir. And then MD Haq. Unmute and introduce.
Assalamu alaikum. Bhaijan, ami Mohammad Azizul Haq.
Oh, Azizul Haq, Azizul Haq. Very good. From Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yes, Brooklyn. Keman achen?
Good, good, very good, very good. We are going to do this. We see. Sultana, please introduce. Hello, Sultana. Who else is there? I think.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, introduction. Name and position.
I don't know what's my position because the new one is not announced yet.
Say the old one.
Okay, Sultana Khanam, Political Action Director, Queens Chapter. Thank you.
Yes, and member of local 11. No.
Yeah, it's okay because I work for the city. We don't have to tell that.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, I know. Nurullah, Ahmed Shakir, Harjit. Okay, who else? Yeah, I think we covered. Okay, and Munir is still there hanging, but Munir is not talking. And this is, anyway, okay, anyway. So let us do this way. David, you know most of these people. Very few people are new to you.
Correct.
And all these ladies also, you saw them in different time, different channel. So the first part will be very simple. We will give you 3 minutes to introduce you to us and why you are running. All those things you will summarize in 3 minutes. It is you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maf. I'm very proud of my association with ASAAL and the South Asian community. As you know, I think I've been to every one of ASAAL's conventions since you started in 2008 and have been associated with ASAAL and the South Asian labor community throughout my career in the city council, my 8 years in the council, and my 11 years now in the state assembly. I'm running for New York City Comptroller to put the needs of working men and women and middle-class families front and center. I'm also working to protect seniors and their pensions. Like my 90-year-old mother, soon to be 91, who is an immigrant to this country. She came here from Cuba at the age of 8, didn't speak a word of English. She then went to our public schools. She went to CUNY. She became a teacher and is now relying on her teacher's pension. I'm also looking to help get us out of this fiscal crisis. And I believe I have the relevant finance experience, both public and private sector, to help do that. I served as chair of the finance committee of the city council for 8 years during two of the worst fiscal crises that we've had in the history of the city of New York. the post 9/11 fiscal crisis, as well as the 2008 recession. During that time, we balanced 8 consecutive budgets, and without layoffs and without balancing the budget on the backs of working class men and women. I'm very proud of my legislative records and also my legislation regards to issues concerning the South Asian community and the Muslim community. One of the most important bills I've ever sponsored and became law, and it took a lot of years to get with a lot of people involved, but it's one of the major accomplishments in the state of New York, and that's the religious garb law, which the governor signed into law about 1.5 years ago, which would prohibit discrimination in all employment in New York State, both public and private, uniform agencies or not, for wearing religious garbs and facial hair. And that's a very important bill to the Muslim community, to the South Asian community, and I'm very proud of that legislation. I'm also proud of my legislative record in general. For 8 years in the city council and now 11 years in the assembly, where I've chaired the corrections committee for the last 5 years, and I've been on the Ways and Means committee most of that time. And I've been involved in a lot of progressive legislation involving prison reform and correction reform throughout the boroughs. I really feel that I have the relevant experience to help us come out of this fiscal crisis. And I want you to know that I will continue my relationship with ASAAL as controller, and you will have a seat at the table in my administration. And I'm committed to having 4 other offices. We're a 5-borough city. We should be a 5-borough controller's office. And I'm committed to opening up offices in every borough, focusing on providing financial services to underserved communities.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. You will have more opportunity to talk about it. We'll go to the first question. Kurimbai, you are ready. So let us start with Minhaj. You have some questions?
Yeah, you want to start with Minhaj?
Yes.
Okay, let me go to Minhaj folder.
Yeah, if he has questions, he can ask any question he wants.
Okay.
From there.
Okay, 1 second. Let me go to see Minhaj Russell one.
Not. No,
Harjeet,
don't you have the question?
Harjeet, you can call question number 1 from your list. You have 5 questions. You can call question
Among
number
the
1.
5, he can ask anyone. That is the question.
Okay, you can ask. So I don't want to repeat it. Yeah, I gave you 5 questions. You can ask any of one. Harjeet, unmute yourself, please. Harjeet, unmute yourself. I can see you are still muted.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Please keep yourself muted. Everybody keep yourself muted. Only the person will respond whose name is called. Okay, Sultana Khanum. Sultana, please ask the question. I gave you.
I beg your pardon. I just need 5 more minutes, so you can go next to one, please.
Okay, all right. So Minhaj he is unable to.
I'm sorry.
I can ask.
I'm sorry, I was having some technical difficulties.
Okay, go ahead, Minhaj, please.
What question? I'm sorry?
You can call any question.
Any questions you received?
Okay, just give me a moment.
I will ask one question meanwhile.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I will ask number 1 question, Brother David.
Yes.
Please provide a brief description of the race. Who are your closest opponent? And what do you think is required for a victory?
Well, we've raised a lot of money. We're continuing to raise money. We've qualified already for over 1.6 million in matching funds, but we expect by the time we get closer to the race, we will have qualified for the maximum $4 million for the campaign. and we expect to be very competitive. We've also gotten endorsements from all over the city. If you go to my website, davidfornyc.com, you can see a list of all my endorsements. We have over 20 elected officials supporting my campaign, and they're mostly people that know me, who having served with me in the city council, or know me from the city council, or having served with me for my 11 years in the assembly. And I'm very proud of that record and those endorsements. And it's a very diverse set of endorsements from every ethnic group throughout the city of New York. And I think we have Congressman Greg Meeks, who's head of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House now, and also the Queens Democratic leader, endorsed me with the Queens County Democratic Organization last week. And I'm really the only candidate with Queens roots from Queens. And I think we're going to use that along with the help in the South Asian community to bring us to a victory throughout the city.
Thank you. Thank you. Harjit.
May I?
Harjit, no. Harjit.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry about the technical difficulty. I had to jump in and jump back in. But a question we do have for you, are you committed to increasing the diversity among your staff? And if elected, how many South Asians do you plan on appointing? How will you promote the South Asian community to get access to local, state, and federal benefits and jobs, just in general? And
well,
when we have that conversation, it's what would be the exact plan? Like, say you're elected, how would we go about doing this to ensure that it's not just a promise that's said, but it's a promise that's actually happens?
I appreciate that. Thank you for that question. I was in the city council for 8 years, and I've now been in the assembly for 11 years. And I've always had a very diverse staff at every position I've had, and I've had a large South Asian population. My current chief of staff is a South Asian woman of Bangladeshi descent. My prior chief of staff was a South Asian of Indian descent. I have my legislative director is South Asian of Bangladeshi descent. I've always had a very diverse staff, both in the city council and now in the assembly. So that's no question that I have very strong ties to the South Asian community. I have one advisory board of any ethnic group in my assembly office, and that's the South Asian Advisory Board. Because I have such a large South Asian population, maybe as much as 35% of my constituencies are South Asian, and that's a very diverse South Asian population, by the way. You know, we have a large Indian population, we have a large Bangladeshi population, we have a large Pakistani population, and we have a large Guyanese population of South Asian descent. And that is a very diverse population. And I've had an outreach to all of them, and the South Asian Advisory Board that meets on a regular basis basically deals with some of the issues unique to the South Asian population, and I will expand that citywide as controller.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sultana, hold on. Sultana.
Yes. Hello, Mr. David. It's my honor to you. I have a question, very short. So it's if you are elected, what will be your top 3 legislative priorities? If you're kind enough to give me an answer.
Well, you know, as controller, you know, it's not basically a legislative position, although you're one of 3 citywide elected officials, and you have a bully pulpit, and you should take positions on important pieces of legislation. But the major function of the controller is to protect the pensions as the chief investment officer to protect the pensions of New York City retirees. It's also to enforce the labor laws, prevailing wage laws. And that's very important to the labor community. And we have to make sure that we successfully enforce the labor laws. We also have to deal with claims against the city of New York and contracts with the city of New York. And those are very important functions. And the audit function. And one of the problems with the city of New York budget, we have a $92 billion budget, but most people don't know this. 17 billion of that $92 billion budget are outside contracts with the city of New York. And that's 19% of the entire budget. And there's a lot of waste in those outside contracts. And there's a lot of work being done by non-union labor in those outside contracts. And that could be done by unionized employees. We can save money through using the unionized employees in different agencies and reducing that outside contracting budget and finding waste in that budget. And I'm committed to doing that because that'll help with our fiscal crisis. It'll also help with the efficiency of our services.
Thank you. Albert.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more
glad to hear
time, the
that, Mr.
House
Weprin,
rule.
especially
Albert, 1 second. Please, everybody mute yourself so we don't have to mute everybody. We're hearing a lot of noises. Please keep yourself muted unless and until we call your name. Thank you very much for cooperation. Albert, go ahead.
Yeah, Assemblyman Weprin, please provide a brief description of the race. And I'm glad you mentioned that you're the only person from Queens. That's a very noteworthy issue here. Who are your closest opponents?
I already asked.
That was asked already?
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Let him ask if he wants.
All right, you can ask it again.
Yeah.
Because I want to see the way he deals with the closest opponents, because he's also raised more money than the others, I think, right? Is that correct, Mr. Weprin? You are leading in the
No, actually,
funds?
I think Brad Lander is ahead. Brad Lander has raised the most money. He's, in my opinion, he's running too much out of the mainstream. He's running as a democratic socialist leaning individual, which is all fine and good. But for the position of controller in particular, during a fiscal crisis, it's important to have a fiduciary obligation to try to get the best returns on the pension funds and not to use political considerations as primary. Look, you can do socially responsible things as controller, but the first primary responsibility should be a fiduciary one to get the best returns on the assets. The other thing which I have not been promoting, and many of my opponents have been doing, is basically trying to defund the police department. One that's not really directly relevant to the controller's office, but I'm also concerned about the spike of gun violence, particularly in minority communities throughout our city. And I think the answer is to reform the police department. And I voted for all the reforms in Albany. And I think there's a lot more we could do with community policing and better relationships with the community. But the answer is not to defund the police or to significantly reduce police headcount. So I'm very concerned about that.
Thank you.
So there are 4 elected officials that are running. And those, I think, are the main opponents. You have Brad Lander, who's a term-limited city council member, and you have 2 state senators, Kevin Parker and Brian Benjamin, and myself. And I think I consider those candidates the more serious candidates.
But I just wanted to ask this, Maf. It is clear that you have the most financial experience of all of these candidates, and probably the biggest name recognition, to your credit. And your funding is doing very well. The only issue now is how do you, well, you talked about how you are going to win this race. And what I wanted to ask you is how would you build with other, and I know you have Queens under, in your lineup, but is it possible that you can get other, like Staten Island, Bronx, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, at least some of them, of those influential people, into your campaign, so that therefore you could move decisively ahead of these other competitors who, like I said, do not have your experience and who do not have your fiscal background that you bring to the table, which is a great thing. And also your policy of not being too liberal. We need someone like yourself who can be conservative in handling our funds as we get through this crisis. Not a communist, not a socialist, not a leftist person, someone who, like you, is conservative.
Albert, ask the questions. This is
so
the
my
problem.
question to
you cannot prolong on something.
But he knows the question, he can answer.
Yeah, please.
I have 2 major elected officials in Manhattan representing different constituency. Richard Gottfried endorsed me very early. And Dick Gottfried is actually the senior member of the legislature in both houses. He's in office 51 years. And he knows me and he knows my family. He served with two other Weprins besides myself. He served with my brother Mark, who was in the assembly for over 15 years. And he served with my late father, Saul Weprin, for 25 years. And he knows me and he knows my work. He endorsed me very early. Rebecca Seawright, he's from the west side of Manhattan. Rebecca Seawright is an assemblywoman from the east side of Manhattan. And she has endorsed me early. And I have 5 Democratic clubs from Manhattan who have endorsed me as well. So we have significant support in Manhattan, and they're going to be carrying my petitions. And they're also, going to be reaching out to their communities. In Brooklyn, I have about,
you will get more
I have
chance.
strong support in Brooklyn and the Bronx as well.
Yes, no problem. Just stop there. You are going to go next one. Sharmin Sultana.
Yeah. Hi, Assemblyman. My question is, do you support mayoral control of New York City schools? And the second one, what changes would you make to close the achievement gap of the 1.1 million school children of New York City? Thank you.
I'm a strong supporter of the public school system. I support, for example, I don't think there's a lot of ways we can diversify our school system, but I don't think the answer is to eliminate, the special test and talented programs, which our South Asian and Asian students have benefited from for many years. I don't think the answer is to eliminate the SAT test. The answer is to create new specialized schools and in every borough and try to expand on that. But the answer is not to eliminate, tests and entry level, because we have a lot of talented students who have benefited from the special program. So I think we should enhance them, not cut back on them. And I would support strengthening our public schools through more programs, more talented and gifted programs, and more specialized high schools and elementary schools.
Thank you, David. Reginald Raja Karuna. Reggie, from Eastern
Good afternoon, David. My question is, the New York City Housing Authority has experienced a divestment of funds from the federal and state government over the last 10 years. What is your plan to devise to get the federal and state government to begin funding NYCHA again?
Well, the good news is we have a new administration in Washington, and we have a new Democratic control of the United States Senate. So we now have the House of Representatives and the United States Senate in Democratic hands, and we have the presidency through President Biden. And part of the problem under the Republicans is that they were not strong supporters of public housing, and their constituents were not strong supporters of public housing. So I don't know if you remember Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who used to head the Senate Finance Committee, would do an annual survey, and he'd show how much money New York City and New York State contribute to the federal government in taxes versus how much they get back in services. And we were always in the billions short every year. That I think is going to change under the federal administration, Senate, Assembly, Senate, House, and the presidency. And I think investment in the New York City Housing Authority is part of that agenda.
Adnan Islam.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Adan Islam, the Women's Committee Chair of Queen's Chapter ASAAL. How are you? Okay, I was present in the telepark of the COVID-19 the mask distribution of yours. So yeah, I know you are within our community. So okay, David, I have a specific question. As you are in this community, we are also living in this community. As a women committee chair, my question is, the domestic violence issue is rising concern within this community, especially for the South Asian community. Do you have any specific plan or strategy if you elect, what you would do for the women, to combat the domestic violence.
Actually, yes, I've been involved with groups and not-for-profits, fighting and dealing with domestic violence since I was in the city council in 2002 through my tenure in the assembly. I was one of the largest supporters of many South Asian groups that dealt with domestic violence, for women, as well as the Queens Women's Center, or it became the Center for Women of New York. And I was actually their first funder, and they dealt with finding employment for women that had suffered from domestic violence, finding shelter for women who have suffered from domestic violence, and in Queens. And I was involved with them from the very beginning. The late founder of the organization, her name was Ann Jarwin. She lived in Queens, and she fought for domestic violence issues. And we also helped many women, not only in the South Asian community, but throughout Queens and the city of New York.
Okay, David, can I intervene over here? Because as you have
Yes.
mentioned that you have done, so we are not seeing that much facility over here. Our women, the Muslim, especially the Muslim women, are suffering going to the shelter because they are not being able to, practice their culture, religious things over there, because they have their different, the style of praying prayers and everything. So do you have, as you have mentioned about that you will think about shelter, do you agree with building a shelter? You are a builder as well, so I know you can do it. So building a shelter for our women who, so that they can practice their religion over there.
Well, absolutely. I was one of the movers behind the first, South Asian Senior Center that served halal food at the Jamaica Muslim Center, along with Rory Lanceman when he was in the city council. And we were very sensitive to the issues of women in separate facilities at the Jamaica Muslim Center, and making sure that we had the halal food available. So I was very sensitive to that, as well as dealing with Chaya, who's a not-for-profit, that dealt with the South Asian community, and so many other not-for-profits. So I'm very sensitive to the cultural issues involving the Muslim community, involving the South Asian community, and I'm certainly committed to that. When it comes to funding issues, the Comptroller's office can cut through the red tape. One of the largest complaints, and I had this when I was chair of the finance committee of the city council, not-for-profits would complain to me about not being able to access the money that was provided by the city council and the borough president because there was too much red tape. And that's something the Comptroller's office can do before they get paid to expedite funding for those programs and those communities. So
thank you. Nurulak bhai. Nurulak. Queens.
Hello, David. How are you?
Okay, good.
David, I asked you a question while you were running for council member. I asked you a question while you were running for assemblyman. Now you are going to run for the comptroller. The position that controls the money of the New York City Council. Well, to be honest with you, you know the Bangladesh community among all the candidates who are running for the comptroller. So I don't want to ask you any difficult question. I just want to comment. Keep up the good work with the Bangladesh community, with the South Asian community in your mind. We stand behind you as we stand in the previous election. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that question.
It's not the question. It's not the question. He gave you.
I will continue to. I can promise you right now, as I have throughout my legislative career, almost 20 years, that the South Asian community is very important to me, and you will have a seat in my administration as well as at the table on all related issues.
Okay.
I don't want to ask because I know you.
Nurulak bhai, no comment. Yeah. Karim bhai, let's go.
That's the last time I will request everybody, no introduction. In my email, I said no introduction, straight go to the question. We need to expedite this process, please. Straight go to the question. David, I will ask you one question that this is not my question. I think due to technical difficulties, you did not hear Sharmin Sultana's question clearly. She was trying to say, do you support mayoral control over New York City school system?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes, please answer
Look,
this one, and then I have another question from Adan. I think we need a little bit clarification on that. She did not get her clarification. So I will allow you to answer this one. Do you support the New York City mayoral control over New York City school system?
Okay, it's not a yes or no question. I support mayoral control with modifications because I don't think there's been enough community input with mayoral control. So I think there should be a broader system brought in to involve the various communities and constituencies in. There were problems before mayoral control, and there are problems after mayoral control. So I think we can keep mayoral control with modifications, with getting more community input, more parental input, because a lot of the parents are not involved in the process under mayoral control. And I think that should be modified.
Very good, thank you. Adan asks you a question regarding the practicality of our South Asian communities' impact on the domestic violence. There are many domestic violence shelters in the city. $8 billion of New York City money, taxpayers' money spending on that. And what happening that around 13% of Asian community, they cannot take this opportunity because of cultural difficulties. And it's not cultural friendly environment to take this opportunity. So if you take a South Asian woman to a shelter, existing shelter system, she will not stay there because the environment will kick her out. She cannot practice her religion. She cannot stay and feel safe. So what you or your administration will be able to offer to adjust this situation? Are you willing to create some cultural friendly, religious friendly domestic violence shelters?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We need more language access, especially in these programs, in these shelters. We should have all the South Asian languages represented, and I've been pushing for years to have all the election material translated into Punjabi, to Hindi, and all the various South Asian languages because of my constituency, and I've been advocating for that in all public documents. And there has to be cultural sensitivity in all these programs and in the shelter environment. So yes, absolutely, we need sensitivity for the various religions as well as communities.
Yes, Shahana Begum. Shahana Begum. Because the next candidate said he's not coming. So that is why we have some time. David, you are lucky. You can talk more. Yeah, Shahana Begum, are you there?
Sanapa, please unmute yourself and speak. Ask your question. Okay, we need to ask one of the Brooklyn chapter leader.
Yeah, I know. That is what I'm going to do that. Ask Kuribe, go ahead. Ask him.
Azizul Haq from Brooklyn chapter, please ask the question. We have some extra few minutes. The next candidate will be here soon. Aziz.
Hi, good afternoon. Please, I have one question, Mr. David, and you will be entitled for this as a controller. So you have a planning just a school level, means kindergarten to middle school and high school for this religious subject include everyone, because we have no religious knowledge. That's why our children going to harmful work involvement. So that's why my question, can you include just religious subject?
Religious education. I think you are referring to religious education inclusion with the syllabus, with the curriculum.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, I've always been a strong supporter of religious freedom and religious access. Obviously, when you're dealing with the public school system, we have laws regarding separation of church and state, but that doesn't prevent public school curriculum to have curriculum on all religions and ethnic backgrounds. I think are important, and certainly to have services to help religious students comply with their religious observances in the public schools. That's why I've been fighting for halal and kosher food in all the public schools, as well as vegetarian food for those that are Hindu and are vegetarian, and religious instruction that's constitutionally protected. I've also been a supporter of private religious schools, and obviously those are different restrictions on those.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Aziz, keep yourself.
Yeah, Munir, did you ask a question? Munir
Islam.
Queen Chapter President, you have asked a question?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Munir bhai, unmute and ask question.
This is the last one.
Shanafa, keep muted yourself, please. Keep muted.
We called her.
Munir bhai, unmute and speak. Ask the question, please. Munir Islam, President Queen Chapter, unmute and ask the question.
Shanaba. Shanaba is there?
Yes, she's there, but Shanafa, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Okay, we need to conclude. Last question from my side. I asked two questions from my two committee members. David, you and I talked about those questions. So I think you will enforce the OS theft law, and as a controller, you have all the city contractors. You will enforce within the city contract limit, city fund limit. But will you do anything for the private OS theft that our city dwellers are facing? Many people in the private business, small businesses and bodega stores, even many companies, they have chain stores. They are not following the minimum wage law. And our people, especially the minority communities, are getting $3 to $7 per hour. And the intent of the law, minimum wage uplift law, you passed, you voted for, and is not serving our community at all, because people are stealing, people are not following the law, and ultimate victim is the taxpayers, because we have to pay for those people who cannot make enough money for their Medicaid and housing, all those support. Social services is billions of dollars. So what you can do to address this private sector OS theft in New York City? Thank you, sir.
Well, there is a labor prevailing wage division in the controller's office. I think overall, Scott Stringer, the current controller, has done a good job in that, but I think it's a question of focus. I think we can expand that unit and really enforce the prevailing wage laws. I've supported having prevailing wage on so many public contracting projects, and I think it's important that those laws be enforced. And at this point, you really need minimum wage is not even enough anymore. You need prevailing wage and a livable wage in addition. So I would certainly work with all the various communities to see that the prevailing wage laws on the books are enforced, and I would use that division in the controller's office and expand that division. And also the audit function can audit various projects and outside contracting projects that may be violating some of those laws, and we can discover that through the audit process.
Thank you.
I appreciate this thing. You mentioned that $17 billion out of $92 billion. They are
billion, 17 billion.
So we appreciate that you will try to enforce this one, and many unionized people can get those jobs. And we appreciate this thing. Go ahead.
Very good. Yes. David, in fact, you are lucky, or we are lucky to talk to you more, because the next candidate is Prof is not coming, but then we have the other three candidates that are coming. Okay, so now, as you know, that the telecommuting is very important right now going on throughout the city since pandemic started. I have been asking this telecommuting in the Department of Finance, Comptroller's office last over 20 years. Finally, it is going on. Will you support to continue telecommuting wherever possible, saving millions of dollars in office space and related expenses, reducing traffic during rush hours, etc.? We are talking about only those titles that can work from home. Will you support that, and will you continue that?
Oh, absolutely. It's ironic because of the pandemic, we've seen so many different offices and operations are able to telecommute that we never thought were possible before. Look, it's still there's a certain importance, whether it be in the school system or whether it be in office settings, to have the personal interaction. But we all realized through this pandemic that it can be done basically joint. You can have partial in person and partial, remote. Whether it be the school system as well. I still believe in the school system. In person becomes more important. But when we're dealing with adults and the business community, a lot of it could be done telecommuting, and we've learned through Zoom. Nobody knew about Zoom before efficiently, and now we've kind of expanded the use of it and understanding how it works. And I would give the option to those employees that would rather telecommute or for various reasons of family issues are able to do it. I certainly would try to encourage it on a permanent basis, even after this pandemic.
Yes, David, we have been a wonderful time with you. Your last 2 minutes, why we have to choose you among all other candidates. Thank you.
Well, I think you should choose me over the other candidates because I'm the only one that has the extensive finance experience, relevant finance experience, both public and private sector, as I enumerated during this session. Having chaired the Finance Committee of the City Council for 8 years, having been Deputy Superintendent of Banking of New York State for 4 years, having worked in municipal finance on Wall Street, very relevant to the debt issuance. But I also have the most extensive contact of all the candidates with the South Asian community than anybody else. I've represented in the City Council in Queens, the most diverse borough in the entire world, with a very large South Asian population, and I'm very proud of that representation, a very diverse population, even among the South Asian population. In my 8 years in the City Council, and now my 11 and a half years in the Assembly in Albany, and I will continue that representation. And I can promise you that you will, if I get elected controller, with your help, you will always have a seat at the table and in my office. And I will continue that relationship throughout my tenure in the controller's office.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I think you have been very kind. And the idea is that we all asked you questions, what we think important for our community. And that is very important that you continue to work with us, and we will work with you. We'll let you know in a couple of days after we finishing this, because after this, there will be a voting among us. I think you have enough impacted, and let us see how other does. And wish you the best of luck. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes. You can leave us now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
I've enjoyed it.
Yes, thank
you.
you, thank you. And you look good. You look good. That is very important. You are ready.
Thank you.
All right. So let me make sure, please. Let's see whether he's a stop left. Do not talk now.
Yes.
We want to see his screen.
মেজবা ভাই
Yes.
আমি এই যে আসরের নামাজ পড়ি নাই তো নামাজে যাইতেছি
কোনো অসুবিধা নেই নামাজ পড়ে আসেন আর অ্যাটেনশন দিয়ে
না অ্যাটেনশন দিছি ওটা ওই যে ই করতে পারি নাই আমি প্রবলেম হয়ে গেছে
I know that is what we are discussing.
আমি মনির ভাইকে নাম চেঞ্জ করে নিতেছি মনির ইসলাম কুইন চ্যাপ্টার প্রেসিডেন্ট লেখা আছে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে ওইটাই থাক এভাবে না ডেভিড চলে গেছে ওর স্টাফও চলে গেছে ওকে উই হ্যাভ ফিনিশড দিস ওয়ান
Okay, so now let me give you a quick I know we all can speak hours, because that is why we are ASAAL, because everybody, we are the leader of the leaders. But please ask the questions to the point, because this is the only time until he get elected and after he is in the position, you will be able to ask questions. So your questions, your community questions must be presented now.
মেজবা ভাই
Yes, these are getting recorded.
আমাদেরকে যে কোশ্চেন গুলা পাঠানো হয়েছে হ্যাঁ আমরা তো ওই নাম্বার 1 থেকে 5 পর্যন্ত আমরা তো ওইগুলাই চিন্তা ভাবনা করতেছি কিন্তু এখন তো বলে না কোন নাম্বার আমি বলবো
আপনার নাম্বার থেকে আপনি এনি নাম্বার বলেন আপনারে 5টা দিছে
No, this time we made a little bit but right now you have 5 questions. Among those 5, the one you think is the most important for you, ask that question.
সবারই কি ডিফারেন্স 5 কোশ্চেন নাকি?
Yes.
Bison, definitely. You may not be even get a chance to ask everyone, but if you get a chance, even today, David, you could have asked second question too. So you ask one question out of those 5. Now next time you ask the second question from that 5. This is how you continue. Okay.
না আমি এই আগের প্রোগ্রামে তো বলছিল যে আপনি 1 নাম্বারটা বলেন আপনি 2 নাম্বারটা বলেন
Yes, that is what we are saying. We changed that today. But we are not going to, we will go back to our original situation. But today you have 5 questions. You ask the question you like the most.
Okay.
Because you are reading it. You are not memorizing it. You are reading it. So this is, now Nurlok Bhai, I know you have interviewed him when he is running for city council, when he is running for assembly, now he's running for controller, very soon he'll be running for mayor, then he'll be running for governor. But that is not the question. Please ask a question that is important for our community, that will help us, so that we can put in question, in blame. You can tell him that this is, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, please.
আমরা আজকে প্রশ্নপাতি করে যে স্টেজে যাব,
yes,
Weprin এই কমিউনিটির পরীক্ষিত বন্ধু. I can differentiate Weprin with other candidate. So I give you my final talk. I don't want to waste time. Like we did it in Mr. previous controller. We support him as a mayor.
But we ask him every question we want to ask.
In the first day, we endorsed him, right?
Because we knew him and we asked him all the questions that we wanted to ask.
So we know David Weprin also. He's our পরীক্ষিত বন্ধু. আমি মনে করি যে অন্যান্য ক্যান্ডিডেট যারা আছে, we don't even know them well.
So you are saying that we should not ask him any question today?
No. Of course we ask question and we all ask. In fact, when my turn came, all the question was asked. I don't want to ask the same question. It's already been asked. You know
all
what
the
I mean?
5 questions that you Korimbai gave you has been asked.
All 5 questions were asked when my turn, because Queen's chapter actually 4 or 5 people ask question, then you ask myself, right? So that question already asked. I don't want to ask same question. It's already been asked.
Okay. So next time, if 5 people has been called, you should not be called.
We don't even following any. By David is gone. We don't even following any protocol. Look, Queen chapter president, you ask him last. He didn't even ask. Why don't you ask Queen chapter president first? Then you go down chronologically. You finish 5 questions with the members of the Queens. Then you ask the president. Then you ask the executive vice president. So we don't want to ask the same question already been asked.
So you are saying that you don't know which will be the community's 6th question. You don't know that.
No. That's not what I said. I said 5 questions that's sent out to me.
But why you were saying that we have to ask, we have to allow president to ask the first question? What is that reason?
No, you didn't get my point, brother. I
Yeah.
said the 5 questions you email us. This 5 question was asked by people.
I don't, Korimbai, are you there?
Same question.
Yes, I am here.
Why you are not talking? You gave all Queen's people same 5 questions?
No.
That is what he's saying.
A lot of people get the different question. Someone gets 11 to 16. We send different thing, but he could ask one question repeatedly, no problem, if he wants to. This is not the forum. We will continue this thing.
That
No,
is
I
in the meeting.
I don't want to repeat. This is all.
Okay, Nurulok Bhai, we'll talk in the meeting. This is not the forum to discuss further. Mabbai, anybody is watching? Tamara said she is waiting in the waiting room. I could not see her. I suppose.
I brought her.
I'm in now. Thank you. I'm in. Thank you. Hello. Good evening,
Tamara,
everyone.
good to see you.
Tamara,
Good to see
you.
everyone.
Thank you for joining us.
My apologies. I'm late.
That's okay. I know you are very busy.
No, the idea is that the question that went to the Queen's chapter or any chapter, how can 5 question goes to all five people and they finish those 5 and Nurulok Bhai does not have a question to ask?
Yeah, we'll check later on.
Okay.
We'll check those things later on, not this forum. And it will be addressed accordingly. It's not going to be like happening again and again. Okay, so Badlander is scheduled for 5:40. We have 40 minutes. Can we call him to bring him early a little bit? We have one candidate missed.
There is no call.
Huh?
That will be on his schedule. We cannot. Yeah.
So Jack said he's not going to come, or he's late.
No, he is not coming. You know, this is a guy, private guy. Nobody knows him. I think he got. I don't know what he thought. But originally he said he's coming now. Today he said texted me that